Broadcasting live from one of those fancy Jumpstart basics on whatever plane they're from. This is Tap Tap Concede. Welcome, everybody, to Tap Tap Concede. Graham here, joined by Cameron.
Hello.
And Nelson.
What up? I'm here.
And today we're going to be talking about, well, not actually Jumpstart. We'll be talking about M21. But before we do that, we're going to remind you, of course, that this show is brought to you very kindly by Card Kingdom. Do check out cardkingdom.com/LRR for all the cards you want to buy. And this show and everything we do is brought to you by you and your kind support of our Patreon at patreon.com/loadingreadyrun. We didn't do an episode last week, which is unusual for us, but, you know, in what's the current nomenclature in the current circumstances
due to the pandemic,
in these extraordinary times?
Yes.
Yeah, we were all just kind of feeling wiped out and realized that we all had to talk about M21 and hadn't really played enough of it yet to render any sort of useful discussion.
We were not feeling the vibe.
Yeah, we were not vibing, though, in the parlance of today.
Yeah.
But I've played some now, and I'm enjoying it, even if I'm not winning that much.
Yeah, the ways in which I'm getting just utterly dumpstered in Core 2021 have been varied and interesting and display like a real vision for where the product is going, I feel.
Yeah, I mean, start how you mean to continue. I got absolutely dismantled at the pre-release, and it's been, you know, a pretty solid continuation since then. I've done a whole bunch of sealeds and gone, like, I think 3-3 is my best, mostly ending up around 2-3. Not amazing. Oh, no, I got 5 wins once. That was a good day. I've done a couple drafts.
Mama cooked the breakfast with no pork.
Yeah, the drafts have gone a little bit better. But yeah, that's actually where we're going to start. We're going to talk about in Limited, and we're going to do that through the lens of a more traditional Crack-A-Pack. We obviously haven't done a Crack-A-Pack on Tap Tap in, gosh, is it July? Holy hell, in months.
It's July now. Yeah.
But we're going to do a Crack-A-Pack. It's going to be M21. I'm going to be doing it digitally on the internet, and then we're going to use that as a jumping off point to discuss Limited in the lens of like what sort of picks we would make from that. So here we are. Okay. So should I build up to the rare? I'll start with the commons. Let's do that.
Yeah.
Ranger's Guile. Single green instant, target creature you control gets +1/+1 and hexproof until end of turn.
Yeah.
That's a playable.
Absolutely. Yeah.
In the past, I recall that Ranger's Guile was sort of like, in its more recent reprints, because it's been reprinted several times, it's sort of like, yeah, you know, it's okay, but it's not like, you know, not like a huge, not like an absolute auto-include, but I've seen it cast more in this format than I think any other Limited format that it's been in. And I think that speaks to the quality and quantity of the removal in the set.
Yeah, absolutely. When you've got like premium removal in black at common in the form of Grasp of Darkness, and maybe this speaks to my record, but I feel Grasp of Darkness qualifies as premium removal. A card like Ranger's Guile suddenly gets a lot better.
I would add that Ranger's Guile also improves with the quality of the like positive auras you want to play, like beneficial auras. And, you know, Dub is in this set, so there's some extra edge you can get there by just protecting a creature that's 2 cards.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
Makeshift Battalion is next. 2 and a white, 3/2 human soldier. Whenever it attacks, if 2 other creatures are attacking with it, you put a +1/+1 counter on it.
I'm pretty low on this card.
Yeah, I've never made it work.
There's an amount of +1/+1 counter synergies in green-white, and, you know, sometimes you just need a 3-drop, but it doesn't seem like the greatest thing you could be doing even in that deck.
Yeah, agreed.
Yep.
I don't want to be making the kind of attacks where I don't know. This has never paid off well for me. This has never been a gambit that has worked for me. 1-drop, 2-drop, Makeshift Battalion, hold up a combat trick and attack. That has usually resulted in extreme casualties.
Well, here's a different 3-drop that could also go in the green-white counters deck. Pride Malkin. 2 and a green for a 2/1 cat. When it enters the battlefield, you put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control, and each creature you control with a +1/+1 counter on it has trample.
I'm in favor of it.
Yeah, we saw this card shine a bit at the pre-release.
Yeah, I've seen this card put in a lot of work. It's one of those things that just having that static ability is kind of a big deal. I've seen a lot of board stalls happen, and I've seen opponents that are unable to attack with their 7/7 that's been built up with a bunch of counters, and I'm doing an okay job sort of holding it back, and then they get their Pride Malkin down, and suddenly that thing has trample, and I'm dead.
Yep. Yeah, I'm a
Yep.
big fan of these like pseudo haste effects, and having it at common means you can be reasonably confident of being able to pick one up. Right, like when this card or a similar card was in, obviously not this card, but was in Khans of Tarkir in the Abzan deck. I want to say the Trample Lord was it uncommon?
Yeah, Tusk Guard Captain, I think. The one that had Outlast.
Yeah, I want to say she was hanging out with a mammoth.
Yeah.
There was also a red-green Trample Lord in Amonkhet, which was also an uncommon.
Oh, yeah.
Some sort of Kenra.
Yes, I don't remember the name of that one, but you're totally right.
Kenra Trample Lord, I'm pretty sure it was called.
Sounds accurate, yeah.
I feel that was absolutely sharpied onto a index card at some point.
Yeah. Except instead of Kenra, it just said creature type in brackets.
Have either of you had experience with the green-white counters deck on either end of the board?
I have tried to draft it several times now and been cut hard, so I feel it's popular.
I have not yet.
It's interesting. I think it's not one of the very all-in strategies. Draft archetypes can be, very all-in, where every card in the deck sort of has to be on theme to really make it pop off. And this one doesn't, because it turns out putting +1/+1 counters on already pretty good green or white creatures is like just a fine bonus. So generally, I'm not going up against these like dedicated everything has counters and synergies and cares about counters and all that, but they'll have like one of the 2/2 Selesnya creatures. They'll have one of the Wildwood Scourge, the Hydra, maybe the Pride Malkin or the Sabertooth Mauler or something, and then just a bunch of other cards in those colors that are good. And so it's not like the entire deck is on that theme, but it's just good and all the cards in it are good.
I feel the +1/+1 counter thing might work a bit better in blue. If you're looking at like Wildwood Scourge into Quirion Dryad into Lore Scale Waddle.
Ooh.
That feels really nice. But that deck also falls down at the same like breakpoint that a lot of like the Wizard deck in Dominaria did, where you're having to figure out like, what's my balance here between +1/+1 counters on creatures and then the spells that enable that. This time I'm confident I'll find it.
Yeah, I hope you do. I look forward to hearing about those drafts. Quirion Dryad being an uncommon really is solid fuel for that idea.
Next in the pack, we have Thrill of Possibility. 1 in a red instant as an additional cost to cast it. Discard a card, draw 2 cards. Now, the draw 2 cards deck, that's a little more of an all-in plan. Have either of you experienced that on either side of things?
I've tried, and it's hard. It's difficult to put together.
This is definitely one of those decks that screams Cam to me.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. It's screamed other things at me, usually not favorable things. GG has been screamed at me with that deck, and various other things. But again, I feel confident that I'll figure it out at one point.
I think it's important with these cards not to commit fully to like playing all of the cards that are only good if you draw 2 cards.
Yeah. That being said, like there are some totally fine enablers. I feel like Teferi's Protege should be a role player in that deck.
Absolutely.
Sky Scanner, just a straight shooter with upper management written all over it.
Opt is back, right?
Yeah, Opt is back. There's also a really big dude who draws a card when he attacks. Who am I thinking of? No, not Talarian Kraken.
Oh, the
4-drop Drake, I want to say. Is that it? Brain, help.
Because the Megalodon scries when it attacks. There's a 1/2 for 3 that draws a card when it attacks. The Library Larcenist.
Tide Skimmer.
Oh.
I talked up Tide Skimmer so much on our previous podcast. 3 and a blue for a 2/3 Drake. flying whenever you attack 2 or more creatures with flying, draw a card. That's where you want to be. Also because Tide Skimmer stacks.
Right, and Tide Skimmer does not itself have to be one of the creatures with flying that's attacking.
Absolutely.
I'm fascinated that this was a big guy who draws a card when he attacks.
Yeah, it's a
As
2/3
this is
for
a
4.
2/3. Yeah, for 4, which is neither a great deal on rate or very big in terms of the classic "what is a big creature" question in Magic. But
What are you talking about?
yeah, exactly. Like, Cam here,
I'm a
just
blue
this
player,
world world of 01s and 1/2s. What, 2/3? That eats everything.
Yeah, it blocks a 2/1 and it's fine. It lives through it. It doesn't trade.
I mean, speaking of Library Larcenist, who is not in this pack, have you noticed that getting way more play than you expected? Because it's gotten way more play than I expected.
It seems to be doing a lot. Like, this version of the Ophidian actually draws a card, usually, right?
Yeah.
Most times Ophidians, and here I mean Ophidian is usually like a 3-drop 1/3 that when it connects draws a card. Like when it does combat damage to a player, it draws a card.
Yeah, like Scroll Thief.
Larson is drawing a card on attack. Now we're talking turkey. That's where it's at, I feel. Because usually Ophidians, you're just like, by the time you're able to swing with them, your opponent has like some 4/4 for 4, so can't really swing into it.
How soon before Shadow Mage Infiltrator is just a common that you cast for 1 blue and 2 generic, and still has it's just a 1/3 flying, and when it attacks you draw a card? Like, we're not, we're getting there.
I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued by your idea. I like this guy.
Straight shooter, upper management.
Yeah, no, I would play that card.
Well, here's another card that fits into that deck, but really it fits into any deck, and I love it, and I will always run as many of them as I can pick up in a draft. It's Sky Scanner. So 3 mana, 1/1 Thopter with flying, ETB, draw a card.
Hey there, little buddy.
Yeah. If you need to hit your draw a second card on your turn for anything like a Tome Anima or whatever, you're drawing a card there. But even if you're not in that deck, it's a 1/1 flyer. You draw a card. It's good. It's just good. It goes in it's generic mana. It goes in any deck.
This card's solid, but I want to speak out against it in favor of Pilgrim's Eye. Now, in this set, there's a bunch of cards that care how many times you've drawn a second card for the turn. So it's no contest there. Sky Scanner is going to come out ahead to enable those cards. But otherwise, if you're slamming 3 mana and only getting a 1/1 flyer, probably you'd want to draw a land because your deck is all about, getting incremental value and making sure you hit your land drops and being able to cast multiple spells a turn. And for these reasons, I believe Pilgrim's Eye to actually be a better Sky Scanner, even though Sky Scanner is more fun.
Which one's Pilgrim's Eye again?
It's just a 3 mana 1/1 flyer that when it enters the battlefield, you search your library for a basic land card.
So you put the land in your hand?
Yeah, just like drawing a card, but you only can draw a basic land.
Interesting.
But you always draw a basic land.
Right. As opposed to this where you don't know what you're going to draw and it could be a basic land. Is it better to know for sure that you're going to draw a land than potentially draw whatever? Interesting.
Thanks for coming to my TED Talk.
No, I like it. That's good talk. Thanks for sharing. Further on in the pack, we have a Sabertooth Mauler. 3 and a green for a 3/3 cat. At the beginning of your end step, if a creature died this turn, you put a +1/+1 counter on Sabertooth Mauler and untap it.
I remember having warm feelings towards this card, and I feel that will continue even if I never seem to be able to put a counter on it.
I like this card a lot because it kind of tests the boundaries of what is win more. Like Ben Wheeler was kind of wrecking show with this card, and it's sort of this thing where, like, if you have your opponent already on the back foot and they have to make bad blocks when you're attacking, and then after combat you can play one of these, it just feels brutal. But it's kind of good on its own, and you can maybe set up situations where, like, you're in black-green or even red-green, and you have sacrifice outlets, and you can turn on Morbid yourself, and maybe you can jockey back into a winning position with this card.
I like when it messes with, I say I like this, but generally I'm on the receiving end of it. I like when it messes with the math of, not the math, but it messes with the decision making in combat, where it's like, well, this is what I want to do, but if I do that, then the Sabertooth Mauler just gets bigger. And it's, if it gets too much bigger, then I won't be able to kill it with, whatever thing that I have planned to kill it. So I guess I just take this hit rather than double block this creature, which is what I want to do.
Absolutely.
It's an interesting one. You could deal with it with this next card, which is Legion's Judgment. 2 and a white for a sorcery. Destroy target creature with 4 power or greater. This was originally printed in, was it Ixalan or Rivals of Ixalan?
I think Rivals.
Yeah, and it saw very minimal play in that limited environment, even with all the dinosaurs running around. And I feel like it has seen a similarly minimal play in this format. I don't know. Have you seen a lot of Legion's Judgments?
Not especially. What
No.
has been getting me has been Swift Response.
Oh, God. Swift Response gets me all the time. That card's so good.
Yeah. But Legion's Judgment, no.
No. Swift Response is the 1 and a white instant destroy target tapped creature. It's so much better than the... Again, was it from Ixalan block or was it from the newest Ravnica block where it was that, but it's sorcery speed, which meant you had to let the creature actually hit you. This time they just have to attack with it.
I actually thought that was another core set from like 2 years ago or something. The sorcery destroy target tapped creature. Wasn't there one that was sorcery destroy target tapped creature, but spell mastery? This is an instant.
Take Vengeance.
Take Vengeance. Yeah, that's the one I'm thinking of.
Which was from M19. And then Swift Reckoning was the one with spell mastery.
Yeah, and that was 3 damage or 5 damage?
No, Swift Reckoning was destroy target tapped creature for 1 and a white, sorcery. But with spell mastery, you could cast it as if it had flash.
You're thinking of the Ravnica Allegiance one that is an instant all the time, but if you cast it on your turn, it deals 5 damage instead of 3 damage.
Right.
Okay, let's keep going. We've still got another 45 minutes in this podcast or so. We're going to get through every single removal spell for 1 generic and 1 white. I'm going to start off with my favorite one from Alpha. It's Balance. Just kidding. Let's keep going in this pack.
Okay. Cancel 1 blue instant counter target spell. Yeah?
Sure is cancel.
Guess who's back?
It's fine. I don't know. Maybe it's a bit better now.
Cancel is the metric by which all other cards should be judged. It's like the most boring, least different, least risky card in the game. It is like an island or any other basic land. It's just like, this is going to be okay. It's not going to be amazing. It's not going to be terrible.
So how is Lofty Denial then?
More exciting. Yeah. And worse.
I'm in favor of Lofty Denial.
More exciting and worse?
I would say worse in general. I don't know, like Lofty Denial, if you have the flyers, it's fantastic because it's basically going to be cancel 90% of the time or more, I think, for 2 mana, which is just clearly better. But then you're obviously going to have the odd game where it's a bad force spike, and you might not need a bad force spike. And, cancel is never going to trick you.
Fair enough. Tome Anima is next. 3 and a blue for a 3/3 spirit, and it can't be blocked as long as you've drawn 2 or more cards this turn. Anybody pop off with a Tome Anima?
I feel that I should like this card, and maybe the fact that I don't prioritize it is the reason why I just get stomped. Maybe Tome Anima is really the solution to the problems I'm having, but it doesn't excite.
That's funny. I thought you were excited about it 2 weeks ago when we last talked about it.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe we're on a break.
Aww. Cameron Louder and Tome Anima are in a relationship, and it's complicated.
Tome Anima. 3/3 for 4. And this is going to sound weird because I was really up on a 2/3 for 4 earlier. And I have nothing for you. I can't defend this judgment at all.
Somehow this 3/3 for 4 isn't even a big guy.
No, not at all. No, this is a small spirit.
Our last common is Fetid Imp. 1 and a black for a 1/2 imp with flying, and you can pay a black to give it death touch until end of turn.
Yeah, sure is a roadblock.
Yeah, that card's fine, but a terrible first pick. Thoughts on the best common here so far? I'm on the green creature that grows and untaps, I think.
Sabertooth Mauler?
Yes. I think that's my first pick if it's just the commons.
I think you're right. I mean, I might be tempted to take that Sky Scanner and stay open, but yeah, I think it's Sabertooth Mauler or maybe Pride Malkin, but I think I'm with you. Our uncommons, however. Ooh, hey Cam, Tide Skimmer.
Oh, it's the big guy.
3 in a blue, 2/3 flyer with whenever you attack with 2 more creatures with flying, draw a card.
So large. So majestic.
Wow, when did blue start getting 2/3s for 4?
Yeah, I know. Usually it's a 3/3 for 5.
There's enough flyers in this format to make this work, yeah?
This card's just plain plain good. Like it's a good
Yeah.
card. There's a white creature that gives another creature flying.
Oh yeah, the Gale Swooper.
Like it's even if you don't turn it on, like the stats aren't embarrassing, and like the risk of turning it on is just wild.
How do you feel about this one? Gourmand? Gourmand? I don't know how I'm supposed to
I
pronounce
think
it.
you're supposed to say gourmand, even though it's kind of a stretch to say gourmand. I think that's the joke, though. You're just supposed to say gourmand,
Okay.
even though it's kind of spelled gourmand, right?
It's spelled, yeah, it's not spelled gourmand. It's spelled gourmand.
Yeah, exactly.
Go remand. Go remand. Remand being reprinted.
Yeah.
Remand is getting a reprint confirmed.
How has the Arena dev team not gotten Remand reprinted? I want new art for Remand. Come on.
Yeah. 4 black for a 5/5 demon. Additional cost to cast it, sack a creature, but it has flying and trample, and when it enters the battlefield, each opponent sacrifices a creature. That's a neat little pack, a neat big package.
Seen this in draft yet? I have not had this card grace my packs, but the instant it does, you better believe I'm thinking about it.
I've spent more mana on worse cards, certainly.
I had it played against me in a situation where I was very lucky to have received a random 1/1 counter from something for some reason. Oh, I had it from a fungal rebirth. So the sacrifice didn't really get me because I was able to just throw away this 1/1 token I didn't care about. But the 5/5 flying trample, you definitely forget it has trample. You just assume that it's a 5/5 flyer that sort of also does like a kind of does the fleshbag marauder ability, even though it's templated differently because this is done as a cost to cast. So you have to have another creature. You can't just play Gourmand and then sack it, and your opponent has to sack something. But I definitely forgot it has trample. I think that's going to come up.
Also, big points to Gourmand for making Baneslayer Angel's abilities relevant.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Give him a round of applause. Made Baneslayer Agent's protection abilities relevant. And that's not nothing.
Thanks, Gourmand. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for your service.
The third uncommon is Faith's Fetters. 3 and a white for an enchantment aura, enchant permanent. And when it enters the battlefield, you gain 4 life, and the enchanted permanent can't attack or block, and its activated abilities can't be activated unless they are mana abilities. So you can make a creature not attack or block. You can make a land not do a thing that isn't mana if there's a land that taps to do something. You can lock a planeswalker down. You can do all kinds of stuff. It's very powerful.
Very, very tempting, honestly.
This is the new first pick, yeah. Sorry, other cards in this pack. This is what I'm on now.
Yeah, I would definitely feel sad about like opening a pack with Gourmand and Faith's Fetters because I don't think you can defend not taking Faith's Fetters first.
Is this the first time, too? I might have asked this already, but I think this is the first time Faith's Fetters has been back in Standard since Ravnica City of Guilds.
That might be the case.
That seems plausible to me.
Yes, you are correct. Since its original printing in Ravnica City
so
of Guilds,
many other printings, yeah.
It has been printed in Dual Decks, Divine versus Demonic, Magic Online Theme Decks, Commander 2015, Eternal Masters, Commander Anthology Volume 2, Ultimate Masters, and the Mystery Boosters, but no actual standard booster product between Ravnica City of Guilds and now.
So yeah, standard players, you get to find out how great Faith's Fetters is. Now, in this format, this standard environment, I don't know if it's going to be as relevant and impactful, but it was a heavy hitter back in 2003.
Yeah, the set does have...
Christ, I'm old. Wow.
The set does have Return to Nature and Thrashing Brontodon in green, but not a huge amount of other enchantment removal that I've seen.
I mean, even if they remove it, you still got to gain the 4 life, you know?
Yeah. Now, our rare, because you're both on Faith Fetter. I mean, I agree with you. All of us are on Faith Fetter so far. But here's the rare. Demonic Embrace. 1 black for a creature enchantment. The enchanted creature gets +3/+1, has flying, and is a demon in addition to its other types. And you may cast Demonic Embrace from your graveyard by paying 3 life and discarding a card in addition to paying its other costs. What do we make of Demonic Embrace?
So this card seems pretty good. I haven't gotten the chance to play with it yet or been beaten by it. I'm not immediately sure that I like it more than Faith's Fetters, I'll say that.
Yeah, because it does get faiths fettered, does it not?
Oh yeah, it loses the match test real bad. That's funny.
I mean, I wish it gave lifelink, I guess, as long as we're making stuff up, right?
Well, or like
But
was some sort of other ability than flying. Like flying makes sense because it's on a demon, and I guess what you want is for your opponent to be spending their mana destroying your creature, and then you can keep like playing bad creatures and turning them into 5 power flyers or whatever. And like that's all well and good, and I'm sure we'll win plenty of games. The thing I don't like about this card is just that it gives the creature flying, and then obviously you want to be attacking with it. And like if you're successfully doing that, your opponent's better strategy is just to attack you on the ground and try to race you, which they will likely do since you spent, an extra card with like fair stats and haste, I guess. So that's fine, but still just like an aura to go in on a creature, and then you're swinging like, and that's your plan. And you probably prioritize getting cheap creatures into your deck, which aren't that great, in order to have Demonic Embrace work all the time. So that's my 2 cents. I haven't played with this card yet.
I also have not seen it on either side of the table, but I did watch Kenji do a stream with it where he was controlling it, and it was putting in some work. It was
Really?
doing good stuff. Yeah,
It's definitely not a bad card. I just think Faith Fetters is an incredibly good card.
yeah. I mean, in a vacuum, when I haven't seen how it plays in this format, like it's the thing, right? It's like I don't have necessarily direct experience, but I saw someone playing with it. Based on that, I would probably take it. But if I hadn't, I would definitely take the Faith Fetters. And there's a chance I take Faith Fetters anyway, just because it's like, boy, that's high risk.
No, I mean, maybe I'm seeing it in the wrong light too. Maybe it's just kind of like, oh, Demonic Embrace. Like, if you draw that, it doesn't matter how bad your creatures are. If your draft has been going poorly or whatever, you're just always going to fly over and kill your opponent.
Yeah, suddenly you have a probably 5 power flyer.
Yeah, maybe 6 or 7.
Yeah.
Black green. Throw this on some tree folk that has 5 power all the time or whatever, and then just smash them in 2 turns.
yeah, get it onto something with vigilance or other abilities, and then you're feeling all right. Like,
Yeah.
lifelink is a sub theme for black in this set, right?
Yeah, there's the black white sub theme is if you have gained 3 life this turn, then pop off.
Yeah.
I just think like this card at its base shouldn't be viewed with too much more reverence than just any of the blue enchantments that are like 1 and a blue. This creature gets +2/+2 and flying, and there's been a few of them, and they're often quite good. Like in Innistrad, you could build a deck that was just like blue white. Everything has flying, or if it doesn't, we put flying on it. Or red blue, like we just put auras on things and we attack. But I wouldn't usually pick one of those cards over Faith Fetters. And like that's kind of the basic mode for this card, where like you just know that you can have that card as much as you want it, because you do have to discard a card. Like the cost to rebuy this card is real.
That's true. Good way to use extraneous land later in the game.
Absolutely. No, having ways to reuse your spare cards is great.
So that's our pack, and it sounds like we're probably taking Faith Fetters here. How have you both found the limited format sort of overall? I've certainly found it slow, not like the slowest, not super grindy, but it's, I wouldn't say it's a blisteringly paced format. And as I said earlier, I've, maybe not been doing my most successful gaming with it, but I've been having a lot of fun, and there's been a lot of interesting things to see happen and sort of come together in entertaining ways.
Like I said, the variety and depth with which I've gotten thoroughly demolished in this environment, I think speaks to some interesting things that are going on. Every color pairing seems to have something interesting to do. And yeah, no, I'm for it. Plus there's like big blue dorks that do things, right? There's the guy that scries when he attacks. There's the guy that when you draw another card, you can pay to tap something down. That's pretty cool. That's exciting. I like that.
I'd be curious to look at an infographic of the last several core sets to see how many words are on the cards for each core set, because it feels to me like this core set just has more words on it than the last couple, but it feels like it's been a trend that they've been going up. And so I like that in general, as long as we still feel like we're drafting core sets and like the cards do kind of basically what they say they're going to do. Or sorry, yeah, the cards do what you expect cards in that color to do. And I still feel like we have that. And I'm a big fan of drafting core sets in general. Yeah. So, and this one hasn't disappointed yet. There's some interesting, weird, different things going on.
Yeah, well, like, I mean, if we're going to look at analogs to other cards and other core sets, we could look at something like Goblin Wizardry as an analog
Oh,
to
yeah.
like Dragon Fodder or Krenko's Token Maker
Command.
Command. And it costs twice as much, but it makes 2 Goblin Wizards with prowess.
It's also an instant, and I think Goblin Wizardry is kind of a terrific card.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I like it a lot. I also, it's just like a degree more complex, right? Like there's more things you can do with it. The payoff is better. It's more expensive, but it's a more interesting card, I feel, than Krenko's Command, as it should be for 4 mana.
Yeah, oh no, I've definitely seen Goblin Wizardry get very scary, especially in multiples, because I've seen people play one of them end of their turn, untap, and then play the other one, hitting the prowess on the 2 that can attack, hitting me with them, and then they have 4. And then you're sort of in this situation where it's like you could very easily put together a turn with 4 or 5 mana where you're casting 2 or maybe 3 spells in the turn, and just suddenly you have 4 3/3s, maybe 4/4s attacking, and it's like, wow, that got out of hand real quick.
Yeah, well, especially if those are like removal spells, right? Like in red, if they're just like going dome or blowing up your dudes, then
Yeah.
like those goblin wizard tokens are suddenly like kind of a big deal.
Shock and Scorching Dragonfire are both very real cards.
Thrill of Possibility too, to help kind of smooth out the drawing of these non-creature spells.
Yep.
I kind of like this black artifact that's like a new Phyrexian altar. I just like that black is kind of claiming, these effects inside of its color pie, like the Vampiric Rites sort of artifact. Sorry, I've forgotten what it's called exactly, but it's like a witch's cauldron or something.
It's 1 and a black and tap and sack a creature to gain 1 life and draw a
Yeah.
card.
Yeah, Malefic Scythe. So this card, nope, that's the wrong one. Sorry, different black artifact. Yes, it's actually just called Witch's Cauldron.
The Scythe is also scary and annoying, yeah.
Yeah, but I like that this card's only 1 black to cast as opposed to 3 generic to cast or whatever, and that you gain a life. It's a really straightforward card, like a lot of the core set cards are, but I like seeing this kind of effect rooted in black, and that's been happening more and more over the years.
So in terms of draft, we're all fairly in agreement that this is a really fun limited format. How has M21 been doing in standard? I don't know, but I'm hoping Nelson does, because I'm about to ask him.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I'm ready. I played a little bit of standard. I think my experiences with standard in the past week have been as much reflective of M21 as they have of the recent companion fix, just because I played a lot of post-Ikoria standard. And then I took like a little break there, and then the companion fix happened and M21 came out. And so it's like I really noticed that people aren't playing nearly as many companions, which, surprise, surprise. But also the M21 cards have pushed a little bit this deck that was kind of on the fringes already, because it got some cards in Theros. It's the mono white life gain beatdown sort of Soul Sisters deck. I've seen a bunch more of that on the ladder as kind of like a budget friendly intro deck. And it has this kind of cool rare that's a 1/1 for 1 with lifelink and vigilance, I believe. And then also another ability that makes angels. So it's called Speaker of the Heavens. I've run into this a little bit on the ladder. I don't know if you have. Maybe I'm just in too low of a rank. But 1/1 for 1 white, vigilance, lifelink, and tap. Create a 4/4 white angel creature token flying. Activate this ability only if you have at least 7 life more than your starting life total, and only anytime you can cast a sorcery. So along with Ajani's Pride Mates and the Daxos and the Heliod from Theros and the other creatures that randomly gain life or just have lifelink like Healer's Hawk, they try to get this is only 1 mana, and then the tap ability to create a token is no mana, like it's just tap. This isn't like a 1/1 with a mana ability. Or sorry, ability that costs a bunch of mana, that you can use later and is kind of useful in the mid game. It's like you just play this guy on turn 1 if that's what you have, and you attack with him because you have a bunch of random 1-drop white creatures, and then eventually you'll have 1 and your life total will be like 30, unless your game went to heck, in which case you don't care anyway. But this is kind of an interesting addition to the dorks that gain life Soul Sister strategy. So that's a new card from M21 I've seen floating around. And this, I don't know, this deck, like on paper, honestly, White Weenie is always pretty good. Like it has the thing going where you mulligan better than your opponent for the most part, and you're even good at beating the other deck that usually mulligans better than the opponent, which is red deck wins or mono red aggro. The red deck right now it's also back, which is nice. It's nice to see mono red with Torbran back a little bit because companions are gone. Torbran wasn't, and Brookleaf, neither of them were big fans of the companion format, but they certainly have game the current red deck because it's when it works, it deals damage in huge packets. It can get through an opponent at 50 life or whatever, but it's still classically, the Soul Sisters deck is going to beat the red deck. So yeah, that's what I've seen. And then I took a look at the metagame share, and so this is a bunch from the recent Red Bull Untapped qualifiers, and so I thought I'd talk a little bit about cards. Now, I haven't run into this a ton in the metagame, but I understand what's going on with these decks.
Okay.
These are important M21 cards that are coming up in Standard. So first of all, my favorite, I opened 2 of them from the pre-release, got to play a little bit. By the way, thanks for letting me play on the pre-release, Graham, and James, everyone else who's on this call or listening to this, or anyone who might doubt whether or not it was a big deal. Super, super big deal. Thank you. Scavenging Ooze has really helped glue together a deck that's kind of been a pet strategy for a little while, since Eldraine, basically. People have been kind of trying to put together mono green aggro or mono green mid-range, mono green monsters, they're calling it. So it's kind of like big creatures for a medium or small amount of mana. So this deck also plays Questing Beast and Yorvo, both from Eldraine.
Oh, wow.
Yep, Vivian Arcbow Ranger from last year's core set. Gem Razor from, Ikoria. And then Crawl Harpooner and Pelt Collector getting in there from Ravnica. Stonecoil Serpent also from Eldraine, and Barkhide Troll you probably have forgotten from M20. This is just a decent 2-drop in green for green. It's a 2/2 that enters with a +1/+1 counter, and you can remove a +1/+1 counter to give it hexproof until end turn. And then it also plays the Great Henge and 24 land. And it's a very straightforward, make big creatures attack your opponent deck. So that's a cool addition. Scavenging Ooze is no joke. It's great. I love getting to see, straightforward and creatures matters decks getting ahead.
Scavenging Ooze also hasn't been in Standard, not as long as Face Fetters, but
yeah, M13,
close. M14.
M14, sorry.
Yeah,
right.
It's been reprinted 4 other times since then, but not in Standard.
Not in Standard, yeah. This is only the second appearance in Standard, I believe.
Yes, you're correct. In fact,
like Fate's Fetters, yeah.
Was Scavenging Ooze originally printed in a Commander set?
The first Commander set, yes. It was...
wow.
They called the SCG tour I remember watching, they called it Mr. Walmart because Walmart got a better deal on, or they could sell the first round, at least. I don't know if it's still the case, but the Commander products or any of those kind of box set products like Dual Decks or Game Night or whatever, the thing is they would usually be a set price at Walmart. Right. So if there was one Commander deck, I think this is probably still the case today. I'm not sure, but if there's a particular Commander deck of the set of 4 that has kind of all the money in it, it's still just going to cost $59.99 or whatever at Walmart versus a Yellow Jacket or something. It's well, we're making the other 3 decks cheaper. They're, $39.99 or something, but this one deck is $90 or something because they put all of the good cards. They put the True Name Nemesis and the Baleful Strix in there or whatever. And that's, an example, right. But they definitely carried these cards as opposed to carrying single cards, and the original Commander was how you got Scavenging Ooze.
I don't know why I assumed that Scavenging Ooze had been around for longer than that.
It feels like an old card, doesn't it? I mean, yeah. You've seen a altered art version that floated around on the internet or something that was with an old border. I know I've seen a Tarmogoyf like that, where it's someone has done this cool altar where they rewrite the text and make the border look like the border from Berserk and Giant Growth from Beta or whatever. It certainly feels like it's a simple enough card that it could have been in, Mirage or something. It could have been from the 90s. But it's not. It's relatively recent. Okay, moving on. The Black-Red Sacrifice deck now gets to play Village Rites, which is kind of cool and maybe not too surprising, but to remind you, this is an instant for 1 black with an additional cost of sacrificing 1 creature, and it just says draw 2 cards. It's the same card as Altar's Reap, but they made it cost 1 whole generic mana less, and it turns out that's good enough to get played in Standard. And I'm excited about that. I like the flavor of this card, and I also just like that they printed Altar's Reap variants for 10 years or so. I think Altar's Reap originally is from Innistrad. Anyways, this sort of effect has been around for quite a while, and it's always been at this kind of safe cost that only ever sees play unlimited. And I guess eventually at R&D they were like, well, we like this card. Let's make it an actual card.
What I also like about the Village Rites, and Cam, I feel like you'd appreciate this, is the visual reference to village cannibals.
Oh my
Yes.
gosh, I just got that. Yes, just now when we were saying a visual reference, I'm like, what does it look like? And I thought of the other Innistrad card.
Yeah, so because the village cannibals from Shadows over Innistrad, the village cannibals have now become basically a cult and are starting to turn on their own, because the flavor text from the Village Rites is, you were so eager to take and consume, yet when asked to give, you refuse.
That is fantastic.
Yeah.
Home run flavor department.
Also, village cannibals, the hands at the bottom are holding up a blanket as if like the person has been surprised in bed, right? Like they've woken up to see this cult around them made up of the people that they knew and loved. But now this is someone who's dressed and they're on the ground, right? As if these people have now turned on them.
It's good. It's really good storytelling.
Good morning. We're here for your blood. You are, in fact, breakfast.
So we had a meeting.
Yeah.
You weren't around, and we had a vote. You won.
Yeah, exactly. Important M21 cards, making some waves in Standard. I think it's worth noting that actually none of them got into one of the very popular decks from just post Companion Nerf, whatever you want to call it, which is the Wilderness Reclamation deck. Another really important card still on the ladder. You'll see it all over the place. Uses Wilderness Reclamation to make a whole bunch of mana and then eventually kill you with an expansion explosion. On the way there, it might play some Shark Typhoons. It might play some, Brazen Borers, Scorching Dragonfires, Flame Sweeps out of the sideboard if need be, that sort of thing. It does have some scavenging uses in the sideboard, but it's mostly just looking the same way it did before M21. But another fairly popular deck that has had several permutations is Bant Ramp. Bant Ramp, actually, just before Ikoria was printed, was kind of the boogeyman. Andre Strasky won one of the online arena, not Pro Tours, Mythic Championships with this archetype. And the popular version today looks somewhat similar to that deck. Still playing Nissa, Who Shakes the World, still playing Teferi, Time Raveler, Uro, Titan of Nature's Wrath, Hydroid Krasis, but includes Teferi, Master of Time. Maybe not too surprising to see Teferi showing up somewhere, since we saw the power of this card at the pre-release. And we, most people, I'm sure, have talked it up. I think a lot of people have talked this card up a bit as a good control finisher. And then another one that probably surprised more people. I don't think we've talked about it much on this podcast yet. Joel Rael, Wanvuli Recluse. This is 1 generic and 1 green for a 1/2. Legendary creature human druid with, whenever you draw your second card each turn, create a 2/2 green cat creature token. And then for 4 and 2 green, so 6 mana, activated ability. You don't have to tap it, just pay the 6 green, or 6 mana. Until end of turn, creatures you control have base power and toughness XX, where X is the number of cards in your hand. So yeah, this green creature turns out to be a blue card. Not too surprising, as it says, whenever you draw your second card each turn. It's in this Bant Ramp deck, which is kind of a blue-green deck with some white cards like Elspeth Conquers Death and Shadow the Sky for necessary removal. And so this card acts as your kind of like one card entire team, where you can just play it and then, pass, play it to Teferi the next turn, maybe draw a card, and then you also have a cat that's going to defend your Teferi. In later turns, you'll just get Teferi to make a cat token on your turn and then phase out your opponent's creatures on their turn. Growth Spiral on your own turn will make a cat. There's a bunch of cantrips. Any way you have to draw an extra card will make a cat. And if you can draw 2 cards on your opponent's turn, you make a cat then too. And then you can just sit behind a few cats, draw some cards, and if you have a window, you can use the activated ability in the game.
Just so many cats.
Yeah, so this card I've seen in the news a bunch. Yeah,
that sounds real good. I like that a lot.
Turns out, yeah, the blue-red ability, they gave the best card ever printed for this mechanic to green. Lol.
Yeah, well, ain't that the truth? Ain't that just the truth?
Flashback to that part of Friday Nights where Cameron decides he has to play the green, fight another green creature card in Sealed, right? Do you remember that? Sorry, it was a while ago. It was during Theros, I think.
I barely remember this afternoon.
Right. What did you have for breakfast, Cam? Do you remember breakfast? What does the room you're in smell and taste like?
I should shower.
Yeah.
So say we all.
Yeah, that seems like a reasonable place to end the episode.
For the record, I have showered today.
Yes.
For the record, I've showered today too. For the record.
Are we keeping records of this?
Yes, this is a record. It's a recording.
I will be showering in a little bit.
Look at you, Mr. Honest. You're my rock, Graham.
I prefer evening showers anyway. But that's going to do it for Discussions of M, at least, which is a set that we're enjoying and seems to be making an impact, which is nice. So I guess that's the goal. So success on that regard. A reminder that the show is brought to you by our friends at Card Kingdom. Check out cardkingdom.com/LRR. They should have new buttons in, so do tell them, Loading Ready Run sent me a button, please, and they'll give you a little 1-inch button. And it's brought to you also by you and your kind support of our Patreon at patreon.com/loadingreadyrun. So for Nelson.
Hey!
And Cameron.
Yay!
I've been Graham. James is helping out with the card reader. Heather does podcast admin. And we will talk to you next time. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.